The Button Boys were live. First episode of Weekly Open.
There you go.
I quite like this.
Yeah, this is the intro for another podcast that I do.
Where do you get these songs, man?
Little Blues Brothers, a little.
It's Envato Elements, sponsored by.
All right, I dig it. Well, boys, exciting day today. This is either the top or the start of a new paradigm.
It can't be the top. We just started.
Yeah, it's impossible to be the top.
You got to think about all the people with all the money who don't own any crypto. I mean, that's really it's just simple math at the end of the day, you know? That's why you can't be like mind short on any of this stuff. Like there might be some crazy black swan events that we get every now and then, but like the white swan obvious stuff is coming rapidly, just rapid fire Gatling gun. Like this Elon stuff. What a great day for that to happen, by the way, especially with the ETH CME futures launch, which if you were expecting it to be mega bullish, I don't know if I'm on that side of the coin, but like Ledger or SZ, but being risk off to me seemed more appropriate than being like mega long into this Monday.
What do you just be bullish all the time? It's a bull market.
I wonder if the Elon Tesla news didn't come out today, if ETH would have probably responded better. Like, I don't think this doesn't hurt ETH dollar price, but the Bitcoin, I mean, the timing is hilarious. Like, launch the futures and then just get crushed by a Bitcoin pump.
Well, it doesn't matter for the ETH stuff, right? Because it's cash settled ETH USD, right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but just from a narrative perspective, I think with ETH not dumping, it was ready to go. In my mind, because as soon as people realized it was a nothing burger, then, you know.
Well, it wasn't a nothing burger. It was an uncertainty sandwich, a juicy uncertainty sandwich. Look at the volume we had on all those all-time high breaks. It just wasn't there. Even throughout the weekend, it wasn't there. So to me, that was evidence the market was indicating, we're not sure. We don't know where we're going here. We're just going to wait.
Yeah, but once it starts, you get through into the Monday Open, you know, not just Sunday night where there was like no contracts, but you know, today people are at their consoles, they start trading and, oh, wow, nothing new is happening. You kind of realize this is probably not marking some kind of cyclical top on or secular top on Ethereum. And people had risked off because it was coming. Like February 8th was on everyone's radar. And now that it's not, now that it's here and it's not like we just immediately dumped 20%, we're still just on the top side of a all-time high and potential price exploration, and time to dink around and go in my mind.
Right, but we don't live in that timeline anymore. We live in the Elon just bought $1.5 billion worth of whatever timeline, you know?
So what? Just means, like, you think people are going to come in and say, oh, I'm going to go spend, you know, first thing I'm going to do is buy a whole Bitcoin for $44,000? No, they're going to go immediately.
We're not even, that is not even part of this conversation right now. We're talking about specifically CME futures leading into this weekend, leading into the open of the contract. Like, I don't give a crap about ETH maximalism versus BTC. It's all about just uncertainty with the contract.
Yeah, but now the uncertainty is diminishing every hour that contract is open.
Yeah, I mean, look at the ETH volume today.
Yay or nay? We need someone else to say this.
I think that's true. I think fundamentally, long term, it's incredibly bullish. It lets large investors that are buying ETH, now it gives them a very easy way to hedge. It's like, it kind of hurts the narrative of this was very strong for ETH. ETH's going to outperform. I think it kind of takes away the opportunity to outperform, but overall, I mean, I think it's a positive thing. It's kind of a nothing burger though. Like Josh said, I do think it's kind of it was a risk. Like, who knows what the hell to do? So let's take our foot off the gas. And now I don't think there's too much of an effect. Like, we got leveraged up leading into it. Price ran and things kind of unwinded 24 hours before. I don't think you can really draw too much of the action right now to like CME launch. This is what's driving this.
I just love how there's like such an absence of meaningful sample sizes for these things.
Oh yeah.
So like on the one hand, if you completely ignore the CME thing, given it was like the exact Bitcoin top, I mean, context totally different, but like, you know, it's an easy connection to make. Like if you ignore it and it nukes, like you feel like a complete idiot, right? Oh my God, I fell for it again. Whereas at the same time, you can totally reasonably make the counter argument that, it's a sample size of one, different contexts, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I wasn't totally surprised that they kind of sold off into it. I didn't think anyone wanted to be a holder into the launch, or at least some people with lower convictions. But like, I think it's largely been shrugged off. I mean, for me, the daily close even shrugged off any type of high time frame change of picture that could have come about. So I don't think it's a huge deal, but I'll still pay attention to it in case it becomes a huge deal,
Well, we consolidated for a month on ETHUSD and then broke out on very little volume. So to me, that's just a signal for the market that no one was super confident as far as buying those highs. Maybe it was fees, maybe it was a bunch of other stuff going on with ETH right now. But to see the volume today, which is greater than any of the 4-hour volume previously on any of these breakout candles, that's way bigger than anything else for ETH right now. I didn't even looked at a BTC chart today.
How did you not look at a BTC chart?
Yeah, you gotta look at it, man.
I just woke up, man. Give me a break.
I don't think that Ethereum needs like all-time high volume as it starts to break the highs. Like even if I'm looking back on the weeklies in 2017 when we broke above like 350 out of that big ascending triangle that we formed the whole latter half of the year on the way to 1400. The first week of volume, like it was significant. It was more than the consolidation range, but the like super high volume came in over the next 3 weeks, like it took some time. Similarly now, we consolidated for 3 weeks before we broke up. Now we just opened the weekly candle. That's like the first full candle above the prior all-time high. So if volume doesn't really form up until this week, that's totally fine and normal for a all-time high breakout.
Yeah, I think everybody was expecting a little bit more explosions, right? You consolidated for a month at all-time high, and then you like limped out of that volume-wise. I'm not looking for all-time high.
It's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, but I'm not looking for all-time high volume. I'm just looking for something, Even Kobe was like, where's the whatever's the volume. Are we allowed to swear on this? Have we decided?
Anything goes.
Should we explain to the good people what we're even doing here? I feel like
we should probably do
Luke,
that.
give the intro.
We should probably do that. Well, boys, welcome to Weekly Open. I mean, the idea was pretty simple. Let's have a weekly show. 5 traders talk about what's happening in the crypto market this week. If you do want to watch this every single Monday, we're streaming on a new channel, but we couldn't live stream there today. The link's right down in the description.
Or you can go to weeklyopen.com and it'll forward right to the new channel.
There it is, weeklyopen.com. And we also have DonAlt will be joining us next Monday. It'll be us 5 talking what the hell is happening, looking at some charts, punting. Should be a fun conversation. So, yeah, this will be every single Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time is what we decided. And that's really it. I mean,
is this largely going to be we haven't discussed this, so it's just, brainstorm it live. Is this going to be primarily like a technical show about charts, or is it narratives, or do we care?
I think anything goes,
yeah,
right? I'd be a fan of narrative type stuff if it's once a week, especially. Seems quite befitting.
Yeah, just like a trader's perspective of narratives, I guess.
100%. I mean, narratives are playing out in the charts, man.
It's almost better if it's not charts,
Yeah, plenty of those. But I sort of agree with something the argument that Josh made with the Ethereum all-time high breakout. I was comparing it yesterday, and I was very long into that all-time high breakout, and then whatever, it kind of fizzled out. But on a relative performance basis, like Bitcoin broke its all-time high, didn't have the same struggles even before that Bitcoin did. And once it broke, I think from memory, we had like one bullish day of continuation after ETH's all-time high break. In the context of like weeks spent there forming this crazy ascending triangle, whatever. And then it just went sideways for 4 days, right? So I can kind of understand as someone who's trading the pair, the relative disappointment in those terms, because I don't think it was the type of continuation that people expected. Because the trade idea was the same, right? Bitcoin broke all-time high, doubled, ETH broke all-time high, so it's probably going to do something relatively similar. And although on a high time frame that could play out, I can totally sympathize with the disappointment in short-term momentum for the time being, at least.
To what degree do y'all credit flows going directly from Ethereum to DeFi stuff in terms of making Ethereum move a little slower? It strikes me very similarly to the way Bitcoin ran in 2017, is whenever there was enough hype in alts, like, you know, people were selling Bitcoin to those altcoins. We didn't have near as many USD pairs, and, you know, the flows kind of dampened Bitcoin until all of a sudden it smashed everything. And I wonder to what degree Ethereum's playing the same role now, but in the DeFi landscape.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, we joke about the fees and people buying ETH for fees, but that's true. Like, that's what's going on right now. You know, look at how high the fees have gotten, and everybody who's using ETH right now notices it. You can't, you just have to have a bunch of ETH to pay for the fees. But at the same time, if you're paying for the fees that are so high, and I don't know what miners are doing. I meant to reach out to one of the ETH miners I know.
They're printing money is what they're doing. I had lunch with a friend that has, you know, it's like a hobbyist miner, and he was like, I'm just making tons of money.
Right, but are they selling it all to USD? Are they holding?
No, they're I think there's a blend of people selling versus holding for the gigapump. But the important part is they're paying off their rigs in like 3 months or something. You know, like, it's just super fast ROI on the material. They can't get new cards. Like, old cards are profitable. It doesn't matter. It's like anything you can chuck at it, any GPU will work. You know, your old PC, mine some freaking Ethereum on it. Nobody cares. Like, it'll just do anything because they're all profitable, and they're like totally euphoric about the fees.
Well, if I was an ETH miner, what I'd be doing is selling enough to cover the ROI and then just holding the rest. But I don't know what they're doing in aggregate as far as.
I think most of the GPU miners are probably spec miners as much as they are, like, you know, big farms with huge cash flows that they need to manage. Don't y'all think?
Yeah, it's a different investment than, you know, buying ASICs where you're kind of stuck with Bitcoin. All those GPUs, you know, it's just software, so they can always switch back and forth. They're not really stuck mining ETH if they don't want to be. So I imagine they're pretty chain agnostic. They move around.
Yeah, all those GPUs will go anywhere, but ETH has been the most profitable thing to mine with the GPU for a long time now.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change until that Ethereum improvement proposal comes. But even then, it might not matter. I mean, just for anyone that loves this content, you can donate equally to all of us by donating to weeklyopen.eth. I registered it this morning. I sent 0.1 Ethereum to a new wallet in order to register it. And then the 2 transactions it takes to register a Ethereum domain ate through the 0.1 ETH, so that I had to send another 0.1 just to register, because it was like $150 transaction fee on the second one to interact with the smart contract to register that. And when you're trading on a DEX, love DEXs. Luke and I, Josh, all sponsored by Matcha. We love it. But like, there comes a time where it's just freaking expensive because of the network, not the protocol. It's like 0.25 Ethereum to make a trade. Well, you better be trading some decent size for that to be justified.
Yeah, I just don't like having another barrier to my decision-making process as far as like on-chain DEX trading. Like, do I really need to do this right now if fees are blah, blah, blah? Like, am I really going to get the multiple I want if fees are 0.4 ETH or whatever the hell they are right now?
It depends what you're trading. Like, I mean, I moved some funds to a centralized exchange after being only decentralized exchange trading for 2 months. And if it's like 0.05 ETH and, you know, you're trading with some size, what's that, 0.1, $170 round trip? It's not that bad. It's the custody is really nice. But if you're paying $750 for the round trip transaction fee, if you can do that on centralized exchanges and have like clean limit orders, full order books, and you're trading Aave, then you should, you know, like, just use the centralized exchange. But if you're trading stuff that's only accessible on the DEX, then trade on the DEX.
Yeah, I feel like if you're trading big enough size to not worry about the fees, then you'd rather just be trading on a centralized exchange anyway. You know? So
I'm more in disbelief. It's been like 20 minutes and no one's mentioned, I mean, the main story of Tesla putting Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, am I living in like a parallel universe or something?
We're waiting for people to get on the stream to bring the meat, you know? People are still learning that this exists. I'm watching the viewer counts
they're
rise.
still joining in here.
Yeah,
I mean,
people are like getting out of their Monday morning meetings. They're wondering like, why do these young white men not have jobs?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good day to be in crypto, for sure. Tesla bought 1.5 billion. They announced an SEC filing today. Elon soft announced it a few days ago on his Twitter.
Josh,
in a roundabout way.
Did you read the official announcement? I didn't go through their 10K, but did they announce what price they got in? Like Michael Saylor always said the price. Did they talk about their price?
I don't think they did.
Okay.
I haven't seen an average price. It seems pretty clear, like a few days ago, that somebody was TWAPing something on the 8 hour.
Yeah.
Like if you look at I don't know if you can see my screen right now, but
Yeah, we can.
Like these 8 hour green candles just don't look natural.
Yeah, somebody stair-stepped that whole thing.
Not like in a bad way. They just there's clearly like obvious buying here, you know.
Yeah, just a permabid on that section there.
What happens now? Like, as I look at the Tesla stuff, this is much less to do with the chart. Like, you know, Twitter will probably be next. Jack has had Bitcoin in his bio for a long time. It's also, I think someone pointed out a really good point that any company that wants to do this is like another 8 to 12 months behind from a regulatory filing, from figuring out how the hell to do it. It's going to get sped up.
Nomad.
Yeah, it was Nomad, because shout out Nomad. He always knows. But like, you know, Michael Saylor and Elon and them are speeding up the process. The playbook's out there, but at the same time, you know, it goes through a checks and balances. You're gonna have to get the board on board, and then you have to actually do it. So like, how fast does this accelerate now in anticipation that MicroStrategy was not a one-off? Like, you know,
Definitely not a one-off. I think some were probably exploring it as soon as the MicroStrategy story like really gained momentum.
yeah.
Now it'll be in every single board meeting. Those board meetings are usually at least quarterly. So it's probably like discuss it and then put the plan together, come back with the plan, get approval. I think it could be done inside 6 months for major corporations and probably inside 3 months for smaller ones. And when Tesla's doing it and what you'll see from a reaction standpoint,
Yep.
everybody with enough treasury, which is all these public companies, they'll all consider like, what does it cost to put 1% in Bitcoin? What do we gain from that? They'll probably gain it in market cap from FOMO immediately. They all love that. Every single one of these boards is incentivized by the price of the stock. The executives are, and if they have coverage from larger companies doing it, then they'll do it. Square put out a playbook for how they allocated. MicroStrategy put out a playbook for how they allocated. MicroStrategy hosted a conference for how they're allocating. You can go, depending on what you're allowed to invest in for your treasury's mandate, you could just do direct custody through GBTC, take care of all of it. If you already have the ability to do securitized investments, then that's like the easiest way. And different people will do it differently. But we just hit the mega whale. Like usually you would think, oh, well, here's like 20 or 30 companies, and I wonder what's going to happen when Tesla or Apple does it. Now we just got Tesla already. They're like the second major name to do, or the first major name to do it.
Yep.
And the rest of it's just like going to provide the bid on Bitcoin for the next 2 years.
2 years, 10 years.
Yeah, whatever.
Just looking at the Tesla chart, there wasn't really a reaction today, curiously enough, on their price, their stock price.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla's really expensive. I looked at the price of Tesla calls just to see, like, what's the dumbest Tesla call that I could go buy? And it's like one call, so 100 shares exposure for March is you got to pay like $3,000 for like a 30% implied move, something like that. It's insane.
So apparently Tesla had 19.38 billion in cash at the end of Q4.
Yes, that's a lot of, that's a large percentage of their cash reserves.
That's pretty big.
What, the BTC?
Yeah, 1.5 billion over 20.
Yeah, it's 7-8%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's important, right? That it's not some like meme amount that you could write off as just Elon being an eccentric.
Sure.
And this is just, this is his company after all, and the sum is certainly non-trivial. So I think that's important. Makes it much harder to write off as like a joke or something not worth giving weight to, although I think it would work either way. And I sort of agree on the, I don't know how to define it really, but almost the network effect of Tesla being the company doing it. I don't know about you, maybe I'm not informed well on US companies. I'd never heard of MicroStrategy or Michael Saylor or anything like that before. It became a de facto Bitcoin hedge fund, right? So yeah, the sort of corporate entry was cool, but it wasn't one that had a huge amount of gravitas because MicroStrategy isn't Tesla, and it's such a big leap, I think, from MicroStrategy to Tesla that I imagine trend following in terms of like what's cool is probably a thing when it comes to Fortune 500 companies and people following Elon Musk generally. So I'm really keen to see what kind of follow through that has. At the very least, it's going to spark discussion, further research, etc. But I imagine even on a basic level, some copycat type of behavior, I certainly wouldn't rule it out,
Especially companies that need their stock price pumped up so that they can do something like issue more shares or raise cash or, they have different reasons and they see like what can happen when you're a smaller company allocating that way. I guarantee you like the sketchy ones are going to come out of the woodwork quickly. But the big ones are going to pay attention too, because no one can ignore what Tesla's done, the traction that it's got from a narrative perspective. In terms of what you said about cred, I totally agree with you. None of my personal friends, I don't think, maybe they don't even know what MicroStrategy is today. But the Tesla news article got dropped in my like college friend chat in 5 minutes. Like I was laughing about the announcement, saw the Bitcoin price, and just 2 minutes later, it dropped in my college chat of normal people. And I think it's a big deal, a much bigger deal than we're probably giving it credit for.
One of the things to keep in mind too is as we talk about, other companies following on that network effect, remember back, it was 2018, there were companies left and right that were changing their name to blockchain. Riot Blockchain is a good example. They literally changed their stock price to Riot Blockchain. You had Kodak, all these companies announcing they were getting into blockchain, and that was because alts were popping off. Like, thinking that other companies won't just start to domino in here. Cred, you're right. Tesla is a way bigger deal than MicroStrategy. Like, we all know MicroStrategy because we all look at Bitcoin 24/7. The average person does not, but everyone fucking knows Tesla. And I think it's a much, much, much more important signal that Tesla did this versus, MicroStrategy buying another billion.
I think another important thing in the announcement is that they're accepting Bitcoin for cars. Like, to you and I, that's might not be a big deal, but it's like to the outsiders looking in.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Dude,
That's always been a big thing for like the banking whatevers that they put out. They're like, oh no, nobody's accepting Bitcoin. It's probably going to die. Well, that's changed, right?
Do you know how many Teslas are going to get ordered at certain price levels? Like 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Tesla. Like, people are going to do that. Like, no doubt about it. We've got friends that are going to do that.
Oh, yeah, I was just looking at MST. So MSTR did gap up today, even though the Tesla chart didn't. And I was looking at GBTC. GBTC's up today as well.
Well, MicroStrategy probably up because their Bitcoin represents such kind of a large percentage of their market cap, right? Versus like Tesla, that 1.5 billion doesn't change too much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, MicroStrategy is basically trading as.
Yeah, like they trade as Bitcoin.
Yeah, at a huge premium, but nevertheless. Yeah, Tesla, you wouldn't know that they did anything special today based on their chart, but they're in a much different realm. Like, it's such a huge company. I don't think there'll be some narrative around it if they break down or something. I think that'll be interesting. But you're not going to see it play out like MicroStrategy where it's so massive. How many Bitcoin is $1 billion or 1.5 billion? You know the dollar amount?
0.03 BTC or something at these prices.
I'd say one or two Bitcoin.
1 or 2 BTC.
That's what it feels like, right? You see like a dust account or like 0.00 something. You're like,
man.
oh, and then you look at the USD value.
$18,000.
All right.
I mean, it's not only a percentage of their total cash holdings, but it's a pretty big percentage of like the total Bitcoin market cap too, you know?
Yeah, it's probably about 3,500 Bitcoin based on some napkin math I just did.
Josh,
They probably bought more than that because they did it at 34, not 44.
that would make sense because they said they did it last month. This announcement was due to kind of that decision. Josh, I saw someone's tweet. They were saying that he bought just enough so that the other 499 companies couldn't buy as much as him.
That would be very Elon thing to do. You know, I expect like Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan and Elon are so like such bros, that Joe Rogan's gonna get on the bandwagon even more so than he already is, and that's gonna bring on like random Joe Schmo listening to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's been talking about BTC for years, but this definitely changes things.
So my theory is, I mean, Musk tweeting about Doge and crap brings people in. Obviously, we've seen Doge volumes. I was looking on Binance US. Doge volume was twice Bitcoin's yesterday, 3 times Ethereum's on Binance US. And Binance US is one of the few easy places to sign up and like trade Doge immediately. Binance US, Blockfolio, but Binance is more well known, you know, from a trading perspective. So to what degree is Tesla adding Bitcoin and then, you know, Elon tweeting Doge? To what degree are we just going to see the whole Tesla cult come into crypto like full force? Because that's a large group of people that are just huge Tesla fans, Elon fanboys. I bet not very many of them from a percentage perspective are currently in crypto, but they are definitely on the way. Do you think that's going to have a real effect on not just the Bitcoin market, but the whole market?
Well, when you say whole market, you mean Bitcoin and Doge, right? Just those 2 coins.
Yeah, that's the whole market. No, I think it'll flow down to like all the Coinbase alts, all the Binance alts, you know, like
This guy.
I'm just saying,
the
that's
shit
just
flows downhill.
Yes, it does.
The shitcoin waterfall.
Ledger
Yeah, the
cash.
shitcoin waterfall has been in effect since like 2013, man. I mean, I'm just asking a question here.
It's just, you know,
I think it's a-
crypto native version. I think I agree. Like, people, both on a, you know, professional, whatever, corporate level, but also probably on a personal one, just like to follow Elon Musk, which is understandable. And as for, is it just only good for Bitcoin, or is it only good for whatever other asset? I don't know about you, but I've had a hilarious time reading a lot of the Cope, like this morning. Like, Tesla news is so good for just Bitcoin and crypto generally, but then you still have people finding themselves a way to get upset and saying like, oh, well, he was misleading people into Dogecoin, and you know, he's this kind of false prophet, etc. Which for me is just like a completely hilarious argument. But in terms of like where the money flows, I think the Binance US argument is a good one. I also think we can just look at which altcoins kind of historically benefit from non-crypto native flows. And we saw a bit of that recently, like Dogecoin, XRP, right? Whatever stuff's going to be on Binance
Under
US.
$1.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm open-minded to that type of argument, and I do think, well, you know, whatever's most accessible on the most kind of retail or client non-crypto native interface, that'll probably do reasonably well. But in the short term, honestly, I could see like Bitcoin creating a bit of a vacuum when it comes to where the money goes, at least for like a continuation play, and then we can convert people to shitcoins when things slow down if necessary.
How do you guys think about like even looking at Bitcoin targets now? Like it's such a, you know, we're just making new levels. Obviously you can have fib extensions, but like how do you actually start thinking about where we take a break? Like let's say we do close today above 44K or 45K, like what do you target for the rest of the week? 50K, 75K? Do you just start targeting big round numbers, or do you wait for kind of momentum to slow off? How are you guys thinking about that this week?
I always look at the yearly pivots. That's kind of my thing. So like you know, are we near yearly pivot? Are we above it? Are we below it? Are we climbing the yearly pivot ladder? Are we consolidating around a yearly pivot? And so 46.2 is the next yearly pivot on Stamp. So the general thought process for me is if we were able to break above that, then you know we go to the next one. That's 63. I don't think that's going to happen this week, but this is an all-time high for BTC, by the way. Yeah, I don't think any of us said that yet. Maybe we did, but that's also crazy. Just
no, we did, and you were saying I haven't even looked at a chart today, and we were like, how did you not?
Yeah, man, you
I
were
saw the
asleep
news.
still.
Like, the news is the chart, right? Like, what do you need to look at the chart for? if you see the news, like that's massive news, obviously. But yeah, so I'm looking at yearly pivots, basically.
I think I'm just I like the pivots on the yearly basis, but I'm also just saying run the fibs, you know, like 1.618, 47K measured move of this pennant based on the closes is 51K on the nose. So that's your like 50K is a round number. I have no doubt we're going to slam that, and then we'll just keep hitting the fibs. 57, 67, 77. Love that those end in sevens. It's just, that's what I expect.
Well, Asia's not awake yet, right? I don't think so.
Sure they are.
Well, my whole thing is like, did the news come out at a time when Asia was awake? Are we going to get a rolling, kill zone type effect when Asia wakes up? Some sort of other.
It was 8 a.m., so it was probably like, what, 10 p.m. in most of Asia?
Okay. I don't know.
Yep.
They saw it. Everybody saw it. The weekly open.
I'm
is
getting
worldwide
messages
time.
right now from people in Asia who are like, "What's going on?" So I don't think everybody saw it.
Yeah, maybe they were out and about. They didn't see it right on the wire.
I mean, targets are, new all-time high kind of start looking up. As much as I respect my learned friends, Brian and Josh, their methods are really primitive for finding targets in all-time high. So I'm willing to share my proprietary, fairly sophisticated model.
All right,
So
what's
we
the
went to
price?
20,
What's the price?
we went
give
to
us the
40,
price.
that's a 20K difference, and then you can just add another 20, and it goes from 40 to 60. So I've had the maths double-checked by some of the finest minds in the United Kingdom. It seems to add up. So, if you want to learn from that, feel free. But, 20 plus 20 plus 20 is 60.
I don't really disagree. I think every $10,000 target is going to be just a psychological level no matter what.
Yeah, I think big round numbers. A really interesting part of this Bitcoin bull run, really the market, even if we weren't in a bull run, is with the introduction of stables. It's like, Bitcoin used to run up, and then if we would get stuck at 40K or whatever, alts would go on a tear, and then they'd take a backseat as Bitcoin pumps. I feel like since the market trades so much stablecoin volume now for alts, it's not like a direct relationship. Like there are just some days where Bitcoin can be pumping and sushi and Aave and like everything's rising with it, versus a day like today where it's basically just Bitcoin. But it's like that used to be more fun to play that rotation. Now it seems like if Bitcoin's bullish, alts can be bullish too. It's been a weird transition.
Yeah, I think the introduction of additional pairs beyond the BTC pair, so like alt stablecoin pairs like you're mentioning, like that's most likely definitely a big influence there.
Yeah, it's got to be the driving factor.
I think it'll be similar to what we saw in the so-called like dollar alt season of early 2018, remember? And it's like, I'm looking at, here's ZRX, like
pull it up.
People could be.
I still have
Can you
Bitcoin
see
on my
it?
screen.
Oh, that's probably me.
It's because Josh won't stop sharing a screen.
Oh, I have to stop sharing.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. There you
So
go.
like, here's an example. You could have this 100% pump on an altcoin like ZRX did, but on a Bitcoin relative basis, like, are we really going to moon relative to Bitcoin on altcoins to their all-time highs from, early 2018? That's a lot harder argument to make because people are euphoric over, oh, look what this did versus the dollar. And not many people are as educated in terms of like, here's, my relative comparison, my relative performance. It's more educational, more education that you need, but I do think you can still chart it. I just might set my BTC relative expectations a little lower.
Yeah.
I think context matters for that one, right? The whole reason the up in USD meme existed at that point in the cycle is because most of those altcoins didn't have kind of available USD pairs, right? So to realize your alleged or kind of blockfolio driven USD gain, what you had to do was then sell it into Bitcoin and then sell the Bitcoin if you wanted to, or, do whatever to actually realize that alt USD profit. But then, of course, if alt BTC if the altcoin underperformed relative to BTC, but outperformed relative to USD, and your mechanism of cashing out is converting to BTC, then there was no point of, you've technically lost on the trade in the first place. That's where a lot of the confusion comes from when it comes to, why do BTC pairs still matter or that kind of stuff. I think context is important. It's because you simply couldn't realize that alt USD pair without that extra step. which completely skewed whether you were actually up anything at all. So I guess you are up in USD, but you'd be up more USD if you just held your Bitcoin if your altcoin underperformed relative to Bitcoin. It was a really weird time, and we had like one argument a week, mostly driven by Luke trying to explain this to people, but to no great success if memory serves correctly.
Yeah,
And that's
I
harder
gave
and
up.
harder to translate, right?
I gave up on that. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't even be able to explain it to a newcomer nowadays. Like that concept, they're just going to be like, fuck that. Alt USD trends really well. I'm going to stay along my alt. It's like, okay, do your thing.
Or they get embedded into a, community mindset or whatever. Or they become like cult-like followers of some coin, and off you go. But that's why people that pay attention to us, like, we're going to be talking about BTC relative values and maximizing your Bitcoin exposure and playing, play Ethereum as a derivative of Bitcoin, play DeFi as a derivative of Ethereum, and all along the way trying to stack Bitcoin primarily because we know the impact Bitcoin has on everything else. I mean, what was it the other day where Bitcoin went up like, I don't know, 3% on the daily open, and it just obliterated all of altcoin land. And a lot of new people were like, what the heck? Bitcoin's up. Why is this bearish? It's
the old liquidity vacuum. Yeah, it's gonna be weird to see how this plays out, especially if Bitcoin starts rising as fast as 2017. It could be right around the corner. It could be like this week if Tesla. I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is like Michael Saylor, when he bought their first Bitcoin allocation, like it was a big deal for a week or two or maybe a month, and people were like, "Oh my God, he owns this much Bitcoin," and then he just kept smashing the bid. Like he bought 3 or 4 more times. Like it would rise up 5-10%. He's like, "Yeah, we bought more." Like what if Elon just does that? Halfway through the month, we bought another 1.5 billion. I think that type of announcement 2 times in a row from Tesla, like we jumped 10%, 15% today on this news. I think we could jump like 25% on something like that.
I think they're going to have a little more shareholder oversight.
Sure.
Because they're so big, and this company is historically cash strapped. Like they were, people don't remember, but before it blew the top out of Tesla Q, shorters or whatever, Tesla was super cash strapped. Like the case for Tesla Q was pretty compelling. The valuation relative to the car sold. Now the stock just went so dadgum high that they can raise cash if they need it. But I do think the people they're raising cash from might ask questions if, you're slamming it into Bitcoin at all-time highs on a multi-year cycle. Like that's, but
at the same time, I was going to say, at the same time, they just did that.
Yeah, but it's like, it's not 50% of their treasury,
Right.
What if they had, here's the bear market side of things, right? It's 50% of their treasury, starts going down. Tesla sold their Bitcoin to raise cash. Like that's not good either, is it?
Well, it's just like the ETH ICO treasuries. It feels great going up, and the ICO bubble lasted it lasted retrospect in like a couple of months towards the top end of it. But we're talking about GBTC here. We're talking about all these corporate treasuries, all these big players. When you get this consolidation of coinage into few players, that's going to have a massive effect going down, obviously. So people have to keep that in mind. This it's what's a drug comparison you can make to that? But it feels great. The high feels great when it goes in, but
all drugs,
sure,
heroin,
sure.
cocaine,
the hangover or whatever, the come down, I don't know what you want to call that, when these people start selling, because eventually that's going to happen. So just get ready for it. Not to be all doom and gloom on all-time high day, but
I mean, maybe Michael Saylor, fights off his activist shareholders, but your everyday public company that hits a cash crunch, what are they going to sell? If Bitcoin's way up, they're going to sell Bitcoin.
Well, that rougher group, I don't even know. Maybe Cred knows more about them because they're on his side of the pond. But they bought whatever amount of BTC. They've already sold 40%. We're going to see that just because price is just going up so rapidly. People are just going to take profit, which is actually best case scenario if people are taking profit on the way up versus waiting and everybody takes profit at the same time. But yeah, people are companies are definitely going to do that, right? They'd be stupid not to.
Yeah.
I'd like to get to a point where it doesn't matter, if that makes any sense, right? Just like you generally rotate your treasury allocations according to what you think is reasonable. It'd be nice eventually to get to a point where that's just like a normal rebalancing thing, which has less market impacts. You know, maybe we go up less if someone allocates to Bitcoin, it becomes more normalized, then maybe we also go down less if someone decides to sell, and we really kind of entrench that status as a sort of reasonable, as part of a reasonable commercial strategy. That'd be cool. I think we're some way off it for the time being, still seen as like sort of avant-garde, speculative YOLO type of thing, but maybe the future is bright in that regard. I'm also interested internationally. Like a lot of the institutional allocations have been very US-centric, which isn't totally surprising, but whatever. I wonder if a high-profile name like Tesla, for example, making this move is going to spur any non-US firms, institutions, companies, whatever, to at least explore the topic and maybe allocate accordingly. I mean, Josh mentioned an example earlier, but maybe a trend in that direction, maybe decentralize some of the treasury Bitcoin holdings would also, I think, be an interesting development. It also would, you know, reduce counterparty regulatory risk, if that makes sense. Maybe one jurisdiction takes a very harsh view on this. I wouldn't necessarily mean doom and gloom as a reserve asset. If that makes sense to anyone.
Yeah, and I think it also brings us closer to an ETF if all these companies are just like normalizing it. You know, like it's about you buying it, you being able to sleep in BTC. Like that's, for me, that's always been the test for new people. Like, can you sleep in BTC and just not worry about it, right? Like that's step one. And I think all these other like corporations are getting on board finally, as far as this stuff isn't going to disappear overnight. And you know, obviously, when a company puts 1.5 billion with a B into this, like that's super noticeable, obviously, to everybody watching. You know,
not to trigger Peter Schiff too much, but I wonder like how many companies are going to end up with more Bitcoin as a relative percentage of their treasury than they are gold, and
companies
why?
even hold gold.
That's what I'm saying.
Companies
like I don't think gold. You know, some companies that have treasury management, they use a variety of strategies, but I think most of them are probably paper strategies, like paper holdings. I don't know of many that are saying like, okay, well, here's physical gold or, you know, something like that they have a custodian of. If anything, they just have some kind of, you know, stock market instrument to represent gold. But even that,
right.
What percentage do they have in these kind of wealth preservation assets where it's commodity based or whatever? Small as a percentage versus what they'll potentially allocate to Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin to gold percentage ratio is going to become more and more interesting over time. That's what pulls us up to 25, 30, 40% of gold's market cap and takes us into six-figure Bitcoin land.
Next week's going to be crazy.
What is six-figure Bitcoin? What percentage would we be of gold?
It's only like 25%, I think.
Because if we hit gold's market cap, we're close to like 400, I think, of investment gold. It'd be like,
yeah,
what,
I think investment gold's like 8 trillion. Wait, yeah, we were like under 5%, maybe at all-time highs at 20K.
Okay.
So maybe we're almost 10% now, something like that. And the argument that I made to, you know, some like family that was asking me why I think Bitcoin's not a bubble right now was kind of well, if gold doubles over the next like 5 years, and if Bitcoin becomes 25% or 50% of gold's market cap, plus it gets the doubling effect that gold, I think, is going to do, then what's that mean for Bitcoin's price? Well, it's like 500, you know, or not 500, it's like 250,000 plus, right? Like when you start to do those ratios and what you expect gold to do in general, your targets get pretty freaking high on Bitcoin pretty quick.
My targets are always pretty high on Bitcoin.
Yeah, but it makes it easier to justify to your family, and
That's true.
They're not like screaming at you to sell everything.
That's true.
You stop talking to those people, right? Like they aren't your family anymore.
They always ask about it though, because they think you're psychotic. They're like, "What percentage of your net worth is in this crap?" And you're like, "Eh."
I don't know, man. Ever since maybe it's because I've been in it for a while, but like ever since 2017, my family has bought in BTC. As far as like, yeah, let's do it. I don't know.
Yeah, my family's buying in as well. They're understanding it, but it took those types of arguments to describe why, like that it was that these are relative price targets and not totally insane. A lot of the macro non-believers, they're still not there yet, right? They think it's already nothing but speculative mania. I think that things like corporate treasuries adopting Bitcoin, it really helps put the put the nail in that coffin to me. It's like it's becoming a macro asset, but it's not priced like one yet.
Well, you already had people talking about Tesla and BTC in the same bubble conversation, and now it's just going to only amplify that narrative for sure. On the other side of that, you have people like buying in with their corporate treasuries, Saylor, Musk, blah 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 blah. But then you have these other people who are like, no, it's obviously a bubble. Tesla's a bubble. Everything Elon does is verboten. And
it's the everything bubble.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, there are people on the other side of that coin who are like, Elon's a shithead, whatever.
I mean, if everything's a bubble, like Bitcoin's still the smallest of all the bubbles. Like,
exactly.
I think it can inflate the most is the way that I look at it. Like what you said with gold, if it doubles in value, I didn't really think about that doubling effect, what that does to extending your Bitcoin target. It's like, if this is a bubble, like, man, does it have a long way to go?
Right. Because it has to play catch up at an asset side, like asset percentage versus other large macro assets. It has to play catch up on the percentage basis. And then as those go up, you get to increase that. Like it's an ever moving target. It's like Josh's MA multiplier that he uses, like you spread out the MA multipliers, but as the price goes higher, the multiplier goes higher. It's just this beautiful bubblicious target all the time.
Gold's got some wacky falling wedge thing going on with it. We might see, speaking of gold versus BTC, we might just see BTC catch up to gold, like in some like flippening trade, right? Like the true flippening isn't like any crypto flipping on another crypto. It's like BTC flipping gold or something, right? Like that's essentially what we're talking about here.
That'll happen. Not for a while.
The market is completely fading this podcast, by the way, because we've done nothing but sell off since we started.
It's just a retest, bro.
Can you pull that up? Because it actually looks like a BART on small time frames. It's like 5 or 10 minute BART for
it's
me.
just a retrace, like this, just long now, not financial advice, but it's just retracing where it broke out of from the all-time high. All right, I'm gonna pull up my screen share if nobody's got it going, because there's
bullish propaganda.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you some bullish propaganda. All right, so here's the realized cap stuff, and people said BTC took 7% of the gold market cap. The realized cap is only 2%, someone said, but so we could even have further to go. But the percentages, okay, so that's 7% at current prices then, at 40K. Yeah, here we go. That's only about 7%. This says gold's market cap's 10 trillion. So say gold's market cap goes 15 or 20 trillion, and say we go from 7 to 10% to 25%. Like, do the math on that, and then to show your Bitcoin chart, quit being stupid bears. Look, all-time high, thrust through, retest of. It's like all of you guys have TA videos on this crap. Just quit being so bearish.
Nobody's bearish, man.
No one's bearish.
I was just enjoying.
It's kind of like a blessing or whatever, the curse, I suppose, being the opposite of blessing. But first episode, let's go, let's talk. This is so great. Everyone's allocating. Then market starts selling.
This is the actual top.
Yeah, imagine. Kind of reminds me of shitcoin talk.
I would thoroughly enjoy it.
Positive, and then we got our pullback. But generally, like jokes aside, that's the technicals. Like unless this weekly turns into some sort of giga scam, which seems unlikely, we basically have weeks of market go up, a 3 to 4 week base, and then it looks like we're breaking out of that base. That's typically suggestive of continuation, at least to me, on higher time frames. And again, this isn't like a low time frame range breakout. This looks like a weekly. At the moment, I mean, weekly close pending, blah blah blah, but seems to be suggestive of a shift from ranging to trending once again.
Right. All right, I did the math. We are at 100 billion market cap for Bitcoin. So to get to 25%, we're at 8% currently. 25%, let's just call it a 3x.
Sure.
Let's say gold 2x's. So that would be 44,000 times 6 is 264,000. So if gold 2x's and Bitcoin becomes a quarter of gold, that would put us at around 250K. That's not an outlandish argument.
Maybe if we say bearish stuff, price will go up. Anyone want to try it?
Yeah, honestly,
we started with the bearish stuff. Now I'm trying to permabull this show.
Right? I mean, I don't know, guys.
It'll be fine.
Go to. I've had a real life. I think I talked to Brian about this. I had real life friends who've never spoken to me about markets in my life start sending me these Tether articles, being like, "What do you think?" Or like, "Should I buy when Tether explodes or implodes or whatever?" That type of stuff. I think we'll see more of that as maybe Bitcoin gains more spotlight. I think it'll happen in both directions. Like the low-hanging fruit attacks will increase, like the really lazy, unresearched ones, whatever. But there's also a chance maybe companies who disagree, for example, with Elon's allocation, or maybe take the environmental argument against Bitcoin, whatever. Maybe some of the critiques or attacks, if you want to call it that, also gain some degree of sophistication. That'd be an interesting thing to keep an eye out for, I think.
I think some of the Tether news is hopefully washed away. I mean, Bitfinex just repaid that loan, but you're right. That's going to loom for a while. Like, I think it would honestly be good for Tether to just go away. Like, let's say they do get in trouble, even if it's not, it's obviously not the entire reason Bitcoin pumped. But like, if it goes away, I just don't even think it's that bearish for Bitcoin. Like, I'm trying to build a case of like, how does it really get hurt? Government regulatory kind of real crackdown hurts a little bit. Everything's like pretty short term, medium term.
Yeah, I got asked about this on the Market Huddle, which is legacy guys that do that podcast, and they were asking about Tether stuff. That narrative just really sticks, like it was all over 2017.
Yeah.
Nobody, like Tether's not done themselves any favors over the years. We've all talked about this. But it doesn't make it insolvent or a scam or anything like that. If it goes away, if it gets banned, like if the SEC or somebody says like Americans cannot hold Tether, and Tether fades and USDC, like, they're working on that, right? Like
sure.
USDC would love it. Who cares? We get maybe a 15-20% down day. Everybody craps their pants and then life moves on.
Exactly.
Game over.
Yeah. There's just too many real dollars flowing in to even kind of care about that FUD, that narrative.
And too many stable coins to care, to care very much. And we're just going to go to algo stable coins, right? Like we don't need collateralized stable coins.
USDC is eating Tether's lunch for sure. And that's obviously the plan, is to convert all those illegal fake Tethers to USDC, right? In a world where Tether doesn't exist, we have an ETF already. In a world where BitMEX doesn't exist, we have an ETF already. We can all love Tether because it brought us here, but at some point we got to cut the cord with Tether, and its dissolution is definitely going to be more bullish than bearish at the end of the day.
Cut the cord to the printer. I'm going to miss those printer updates, man, on Twitter. Still pumps the market a little bit.
I think they're finally doing a better job with their PR. Like, I don't think the banking is getting easier for them. That stemmed a lot of their problems, right? Like, they had a hard time getting banking, and their banking relationships would be consistently fractured, and it helped run them into all these issues. I don't think they were ever like intentionally bad actors. They just kept getting told no by the real world. Yeah. And now there's more and more ways for the real world to tell them yes. And I think it'll probably become a safe thing. And I don't think it'll go away. I think it'll just be normal. Like, Tether will be a part of the ecosystem, and it'll be fine. And it'll be like, let bygones be bygones, unless some regulatory body tries to come hammer down on them.
No chance. Tether, they're going for blood, 100%.
The regulators are?
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. I mean, they have years and years and years of stuff. I like Paulo. Paulo's a good guy. Bitfinex has done great things. Phil Potter, all these people are great, but there's just too much baggage at the end of the day. It's like Zcash. There's just too much baggage to even get involved with that. So Tether's just going to continue to be the place where people go with shady, dodgy dollars to get in, right? Like, that's just what it is. Love it for what it is.
Yeah.
Kraken just announced that they're disabling new signups.
Oh,
due to demand.
That's awesome.
That is top things.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see those notifications this week when Binance starts selling accounts again. All right, guys, we bid an hour. Let's wrap this up soon. Bitcoin at all-time highs. I pray to God this isn't the top. Yeah, I was going to say, do we have any ideas past just Bitcoin that we're looking at this week? It could be a bearish call, it could be a bullish call, or just a development that you're looking at. Ledge?
I think ETH keeps up with most of the move here with Bitcoin. I think both are probably going to go up. ETH 0.055 is all I care about for the month relative to Bitcoin. I think it's still going to happen. I think Bitcoin being bullish doesn't stop that.
Brave call, sir.
That's what we're here for.
By the way, Luke, are we adding you to the 2600 steak dinner thing? Because I gotta know if I actually win that.
Wait, so hold on. Can you repeat the bet one more time and then I'll decide? I'm happy to.
It was the end of March, right?
Yes,
Josh.
Yeah.
The end of March, I said ETH over 2,500, and he took the under.
And I joined in on the over, correct?
You joined in on the over, and Josh gets a steak dinner in Washington D.C. So when we're allowed to, actually go places again, we're gonna go meet up in D.C.
Go ahead and mark me down. I'm in. Josh,
Fred, do you want the under? So this is an even 2 for 2.
I still have to stay for the time being.
It's a longer flight for you.
Yeah, that as well.
You'd have to visit America, which is a precarious.
It's a bad risk reward right now.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not sure about that bet. As for the week ahead, I'm gonna avoid strong opinions, given I kind of want to see what the follow through is, if any, hopefully any, to this type of announcement. I'm at least open-minded towards Bitcoin taking over, maybe just for the course of this week, relative to ETH or something else, just because the whenever kind of big money narratives start to coalesce, we see Bitcoin outperformance, and then when things kind of cool off, ETH either catches up or altcoins a bit, etc. So like rotationally, I can at least see a short period of momentum continuation on Bitcoin during the course of the week, and I think at least from the available evidence, that's where I want to be. But I also just want to quickly mention, if this is the type of big catalyst continuation thing that I suppose we're hoping it is, I don't really want to see Bitcoin come close to its all-time high breakout level. I know from like a basic TA whatever thing, there's like, oh well, a quick retest never hurt anyone. But generally, we've seen in altcoins, we've seen with ETH, we've seen with Bitcoin as well, real cash-driven or meaningful all-time high breaks don't usually afford the luxury of coming back for any meaningful period of time before heading higher. So I certainly don't have any bids at that level, if the higher time frame idea is correct.
Valid. I mean, gosh, I want to be so bullish ETH, like I really do. That target's at 0.055 for me too. And I did kind of think that this week, CME being a non-event, that we would get through it, everyone would wake up and say, oh shit, we're not dumping, and then ETH would just take off. I think that this kind of hurts ETH's chance short-term to outperform. But I think the picture's still super bright for ETH. I just think Bitcoin probably steals the show this week, but yeah, I'm following up with you, Ledge. As long as we're staying like right around 0.04, I don't really have a hard line in the sand for ETH and like where that idea is wrong, because we're just consolidating here, up and down 5%. I think general direction is up, but like maybe it kind of has to sit still while Bitcoin just steals the show, man, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, this is fun.
Yeah, that's fine. And we were talking about this week. I don't think it has to be this week, but
well, we got until March.
Yeah, we got till March.
Well,
Josh, before we go, we got to shill some stuff.
Definitely.
Josh, did you have a weekly thing?
Up only, right? I was told to say that by the corporate overlords.
It's good for business if number go up.
What number?
If you can't like be bullish with this, right? Like, what is it gonna take? That's the question I have. Like, mentally, what does it take for people who aren't in crypto to get in? What is the number for you as far as like, if it's above 60, then do you start paying attention? Do you start paying attention? If it's above 100. Like, at what point are people gonna say, all right, let's start paying attention to this? I've already had people like HNWs, high net worth people, who are like reaching out saying, all right, it's time to start taking it seriously. By the end of the week, I don't know, I like 46 by the end of the week, honestly. For BTC, I think the 0.05 target's realistic but bogus. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't trade the EPTC pair for that reason. It's all over the place. Like you can't hold a long, you can't hold a short. It goes up and down. I don't know. I'm bullish EPTC, just not anytime soon.
Fair. It's a good thing we didn't make it at 0.055 by the end of the month, because if Bitcoin goes to like 60K, then 2,500 is easy.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. So a couple things to shill. Number one, to subscribe to this podcast, go to weeklyopen.com. It sends you straight to the YouTube. Today, this is streaming on Luke's channel. It'll stream on the Weekly Open channel, so you need to be subscribed to that channel.
That link's right down below too.
Yep. Click the friggin' bell and crap on that once you get over to that page. And then also, if you want to give us money, which you should, then you can just send any ERC20. It can be any. It can be you control us. You could send. Someone sent me and Josh shrooms, which I'm holding. I'm a shroom hodler now. Send it to weeklyopen.eth, and it will be equally redistributed to all the co-hosts.
You know, what'd be really fun is if we pool the money that people send us and then use it to punt on our ideas each week. We could see how far the consensus idea, we put it in every week. I love that. How far the Weekly Open fund gets.
There you go.
Yeah,
weeklyopen.com. Shill this show.
So we gotta do our own part for that as well.
What's
in
that?
what regard?
I was making a joke about an unregulated fund coming up as the first idea of this podcast. Maybe not.
yeah, maybe not. We'll see.
It's not a fund. It's just treasury management between friends.
Yeah, it's like a OnlyFans Capital. People send us some money and then Anyways, yes, everything that Ledger has said, subscribe right down below. Head on over to the Weekly Open. Appreciate everyone watching. And next week, we have DonAlt joining us. He's the 5th co-host on this panel every single week, 11 a.m. Mondays, live, talking about what's ahead in the crypto market. This was fun, guys. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Me too. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
All right.